The hospital waiting room smells like disinfectant and fear. I press my palms against my thighs, trying to stop them from shaking, but nothing works. The fluorescent lights overhead buzz with a persistent hum that makes my head throb. Across from me, my father sits with his face buried in his hands, shoulders trembling with silent sobs. My brother Nathan paces back and forth, his dress shoes clicking against the linoleum floor in an irregular rhythm that matches my racing heartbeat. My sister Caroline stands by the window, arms wrapped around herself, staring out at the parking lot with red-rimmed eyes. None of them will look at me. They haven't looked at me since we arrived at Memorial Hospital 43 minutes ago. I know the exact time because I keep checking my phone, as if the minutes passing might somehow change what the doctor is about to tell us. My name is Emily Harrison. I'm 31 years old, and today might be the day my mother dies. The thought keeps circling through my mind like a vulture, and each time it passes, I feel a fresh wave of nausea. This morning, everything was normal. This morning, I was drinking coffee in the kitchen of the house my father gave me 3 years ago, planning my grocery list for the week. This morning, my mother was alive. The call came at 9:47. My father's voice, barely recognizable through his panic, screaming that I needed to get to their house immediately. Something was wrong with Mom. Something terrible. I'd thrown on the first clothes I could find, not even bothering to change out of my pajama pants, and driven the 12 miles to their colonial-style home in Westbrook, faster than I'd ever driven in my life. When I arrived, the ambulance was already there, red and blue lights painting the neighbors' faces as they gathered on their lawns, whispering behind their hands. I pushed through the paramedics and found my mother lying on the kitchen floor, her face gray, her lips tinged with blue. She wasn't moving. My father was kneeling beside her, holding her hand, and when he looked up at me, I saw something in his eyes that I'd never seen before. Accusation. The paramedics worked on her with practiced efficiency, their movements precise and urgent. They loaded her onto a stretcher, and we all piled into our cars and followed the ambulance to the hospital. That was 2 hours ago. Since then, we've been sitting in this waiting room while doctors work to save her life, and my family has built an invisible wall between themselves and me. I try to remember the exact sequence of events this morning, replaying them in my mind like a movie I can pause and rewind. My mother had called me last night around 8, her voice cheerful as always. She wanted to know if I was coming to Sunday dinner this week. I told her yes, of course, just like I did every Sunday. She'd sounded perfectly fine, normal, happy even. She'd mentioned that she was making pot roast, my favorite, and asked if I could bring that chocolate cake she liked from Baker's Corner. Had there been anything unusual in her voice? Any hint that something was wrong? I search my memory desperately, but I can't find anything. She'd been her usual self, warm and loving, asking about my work at the accounting firm, reminding me to water the plants in my office because I always forgot. My father is 57. My mother is 55. Was 55. Is. I don't know which tense to use. She's still alive right now, somewhere behind those double doors, fighting for each breath while machines monitor her vitals and doctors pump her full of medications I can't pronounce. 55 is too young to have a heart attack. That's what the paramedics said they thought it was. A massive coronary event, they called it. But Mom has always been healthy. She walks 3 miles every morning, eats organic vegetables from her garden, takes her vitamins religiously. She doesn't smoke, barely drinks, keeps her stress levels low through yoga and meditation. None of this makes sense. Nathan stops pacing and stands in front of me, his shadow falling across my lap. I look up at him, searching his face for some sign of the brother I've known my entire life, but his expression is carved from stone. His jaw is tight, his eyes hard. "This is your fault," he says quietly. His voice is steady, controlled, but there's venom underneath it that makes me flinch. If she dies, It's on you." "Nathan, I don't understand. What are you talking about?" My voice comes out small and confused. I genuinely don't know what he means. How could my mother's heart attack possibly be my fault? "Don't play dumb, Emily." Caroline turns from the window, and her face is twisted with grief and anger. She's 28, 3 years younger than me, and we've always been close. Or at least, I thought we were. Right now, she's looking at me like I'm a stranger. Worse than a stranger, like I'm an enemy. "You know exactly what you've done." I stand up, my legs unsteady beneath me. "I have no idea what you're talking about. Please, someone explain this to me. What am I supposed to have done?" My father finally raises his head. His eyes are bloodshot, his face haggard with grief, and when he speaks, each word feels like a physical blow. "The argument yesterday, Emily, the terrible things you said to your mother, the stress you put her under. The doctor said stress can trigger a heart attack, especially in someone with an underlying condition we didn't know about. Yesterday, the memory crashes over me like a wave. The argument. Oh God, the argument. My mother had invited herself over to my house unannounced, something she rarely did. She had a key, of course. All of my family did, because my father had given me this house and insisted that they keep copies of the keys for emergencies. When I came home from work, exhausted after dealing with a particularly difficult client audit, I found her in my living room, going through my mail, not just glancing at it, actually opening envelopes that were addressed to me, reading my personal correspondence, making little piles on my coffee table, bills in one stack, personal letters in another, junk mail in a third. I'd been shocked, violated. This was my private space, and she was invading it without permission. When I asked her what she was doing, she'd smiled that patient smile that always made me feel like a child, and said she was just helping me organize. She'd noticed that my bills were piling up, and she wanted to make sure I was staying on top of my finances. After all, she'd said, "This house was a gift from your father, and we want to make sure you're taking proper care of it." Something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the exhaustion from work, maybe it was the years of subtle control and interference disguised as help. But I lost my temper. I told her she had no right to go through my mail, that I was a grown woman who could handle her own affairs, that I appreciated the house, but it didn't give them the right to treat me like I was still a teenager who needed supervision. She'd looked hurt, genuinely hurt. Her eyes had filled with tears, and her voice had trembled when she said she was only trying to help, that she worried about me living alone, that she wanted to make sure I was okay. But I was too angry to care. I told her to leave. When she didn't move fast enough, I actually raised my voice. I said things I shouldn't have said. I told her that I needed space, that her constant checking up on me was suffocating, that I couldn't live my life with her hovering over my shoulder all the time. She'd left without another word, gathering her purse with shaking hands, her face pale and drawn. I watched her walk to her car, and I felt guilty immediately, but I was still too angry to call her back. I told myself I'd apologize today. I'd give her a call, explain that I was just stressed from work, that I didn't mean the harsh things I'd said. I never got the chance. "That argument," I whisper, the full weight of it crashing down on me. "You think that argument gave her a heart attack? What else could it be?" Nathan's voice is sharp, cutting. "She came home devastated yesterday. Dad said she cried for hours. She barely ate dinner. She kept saying she didn't understand why you hated her so much, what she'd done to deserve being treated that way." "I don't hate her." The words come out desperate, pleading. I was just frustrated. I was going to apologize. I was going to call her today. Caroline laughs, but there's no humor in it. "Well, now you can't. Now all she'll remember, if she even wakes up, is her daughter screaming at her to get out of her house. That's your legacy, Emily. That's what you gave her." The double doors swing open, and a doctor walks into the waiting room. He's middle-aged, with gray at his temples and tired eyes that have seen too much death. My father jumps to his feet, and we all crowd around the doctor, our family differences temporarily forgotten in the face of what he might tell us. "Mr. Harrison?" The doctor's voice is gentle, practiced at delivering bad news. "I'm Dr. Mitchell. I'm so sorry. We did everything we could, but your wife went into cardiac arrest. We weren't able to revive her. She's gone." The world tilts sideways. I hear my father make a sound like a wounded animal. Nathan's face crumples. Caroline sinks to her knees, sobbing. But I just stand there, frozen, unable to process the words. Gone. My mother is gone. 55 years old, healthy and vital, and full of life just yesterday, and now she's gone. Was it a heart attack? My father's voice is barely a whisper. Dr. Mitchell nods. It appears to be a massive coronary event, but we'll know more after the autopsy. These things can happen suddenly, even in people who seem healthy. Sometimes there are underlying conditions we don't know about. I'm very sorry for your loss. He says more things, offers resources for grief counseling, explains about claiming her personal effects, but I don't hear any of it. I'm trapped in this moment, watching my father collapse into a chair, watching Nathan put his arms around Caroline, watching my family grieve together while I stand apart, the invisible barrier between us now insurmountable. My father looks at me then, and what I see in his eyes destroys me. Not grief, not sadness, hatred, pure, undiluted hatred. "Get out," he says quietly. "Dad, please. I didn't mean, get out!" His voice rises to a roar that echoes through the waiting room. Other families turn to stare. Nurses pause in their rounds. "You killed her. Your mother is dead because of you, because you couldn't control your temper for one goddamn day, because you had to be cruel and heartless and drive her into a grave." "Mr. Harrison, please calm down." Dr. Mitchell tries to intervene, but my father isn't listening. "The house," he continues, his voice dropping back to that terrible quiet intensity. "That house I gave you 3 years ago. I want it back. You don't deserve it. You don't deserve anything from this family. I want the deed. I want the keys. I want you out of there by the end of the week. Dad, that's my home. It was a gift." He's standing now, towering over me, and I take an involuntary step backward. A gift I'm taking back. You want to be independent? You want to be left alone? Fine. You're alone. But you don't get to keep living in a house I bought for you while my wife, your mother, is lying dead in that room. Nathan and Caroline are nodding, their faces hard and unforgiving. They agree with him. They all agree that this is my fault. I try one more time. "Please, let me explain. The argument yesterday, it wasn't as bad as you think. She was going through my mail without permission. I had every right to be upset. You had every right to show respect," Caroline shouts. "She was your mother. She raised you, loved you, gave you everything, and you threw it back in her face." "I didn't throw anything. Just go, Emily." Nathan's voice is cold, final. Before I say something I regret, or do something I regret, "You're not welcome here. You're not welcome at the funeral. You're not welcome in this family anymore." I look at each of them, searching for any sign of the people I've known my entire life, but they're gone. Grief and anger have transformed them into strangers who see me as a monster. There's no point in staying, no point in trying to defend myself. They've already decided I'm guilty. I walk out of the hospital into brilliant sunshine that feels obscene. The world shouldn't be bright and warm when my mother is dead, when my family has just disowned me, when my entire life has imploded in the space of 3 hours. I sit in my car in the parking lot, and finally, I break. The sobs tear out of me with violent force, making my whole body shake. I grip the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turn white, and I scream into the empty space, letting out all the grief and guilt and confusion that's been building since that phone call this morning. My mother is dead. My family hates me. And I'm about to lose my home. 3 days later, I sign the papers giving the house back to my father. His lawyer handles the transaction, cold and professional, not even looking me in the eye as I initial each page. My father isn't there. None of my family is there. They're at home, planning my mother's funeral, which I'm not invited to attend. I have a week to move out. I spend those 7 days packing my life into boxes, each item a reminder of happier times. The photo albums my mother helped me organize, the kitchen table my father and I assembled together, the throw pillows Caroline and I picked out on a shopping trip last fall. Everything is tainted now, contaminated by the knowledge that none of it means anything anymore. Hannah Chen, my best friend since college, helps me move. She doesn't say much, just shows up with a rental truck and starts carrying boxes. She knows better than to offer platitudes about how everything will be okay, because right now, nothing is okay, and we both know it. "Where are you going to go?" she asks, as we load the last of my furniture into the truck. "I found a small apartment across town," I tell her. "Month-to-month lease. It's all I can afford right now." Hannah nods, her dark eyes soft with sympathy. "Have you heard from any of them?" I shake my head. In the 3 days since my mother's death, I haven't received a single call or text from my family, not to tell me about funeral arrangements, not to discuss logistics, nothing. It's like I've been erased from their lives entirely. The apartment I move into is a studio in an older building near the industrial district. It's maybe a third of the size of the house I've been living in, with thin walls and a lingering smell of old carpet. But it's mine, paid for with my own money, and at least I don't have to worry about anyone taking it away from me. I don't attend my mother's funeral. On the day of the service, I sit in my tiny apartment and drink cheap wine, imagining what's happening across town. The church service, the eulogy, the procession to the cemetery, my mother being lowered into the ground while I'm not there to say goodbye. The guilt is suffocating. Hannah calls me that evening. "I drove by the church," she says carefully. "I thought you should know that it was packed. Your mom was really loved. Did you see my family?" "Yeah. Your dad gave the eulogy. He looked broken." "Emily, I think maybe with time." "They blame me, Hannah. They think I killed her." "You didn't kill her. She had a heart attack." "Because of me. Because I stressed her out. Because I couldn't just let her go through my mail without making it into a federal case." My voice cracks, and I take another sip of wine. Maybe they're right. Maybe it is my fault. "Don't say that. You didn't do anything wrong. Setting boundaries with your parents is healthy, normal. You couldn't have known what would happen." But her words don't make me feel better. Nothing makes me feel better. The weeks blur into months. I go to work, I come home, I sleep. I stop answering Hannah's calls as frequently. I stop going out with friends. I exist in a gray fog where nothing seems to matter very much. Every time I see a woman who looks like my mother from behind, my heart stops. Every time my phone rings, I hope it's my father calling to say he's sorry, that he was wrong, that I can come home. It never is. 6 months after my mother's death, I run into Caroline at the grocery store. I see her first standing in the produce section, examining avocados. My first instinct is to turn around and leave before she sees me, but something makes me walk forward. I need to try. I need to attempt to fix this terrible rift in my family. "Caroline," I say softly as I approach. She looks up, and her face goes hard immediately. "Emily." "How are you? How's everyone doing?" "We're managing. No thanks to you." She turns back to the avocados, dismissing me. "I think about Mom every day," I continue, desperate to make some kind of connection. I wish I could take back that argument. I wish I'd had a chance to apologize to her. Caroline's hand still on the avocados. When she turns to face me, her eyes are filled with tears, but they're angry tears. "You don't get to do this? You don't get to assuage your guilt by telling me how bad you feel? Mom is dead because you were selfish and cruel, and nothing you say now is going to change that." "I wasn't cruel. I was just trying to set boundaries." "Boundaries?" She laughs bitterly. Is that what we're calling it? You screamed at our mother, threw her out of your house, and told her to stop acting like you needed her. Those were your words, Emily. Stop acting like I need you. Do you know what that did to her? Do you know how much she loved you? How much she worried about you? I know she loved me. I loved her too. That's why, if you loved her, you wouldn't have treated her like garbage. If you loved her, you would have been grateful that she cared enough to help you instead of throwing a tantrum like a spoiled child. Caroline's voice is rising now, and other shoppers are starting to stare. Dad was right to take that house back. You didn't deserve it. You didn't deserve her. She walks away, leaving her shopping cart behind, leaving me standing in the produce section with tears streaming down my face. A store employee asks if I'm okay, and I can't even answer. I just leave, abandoning my own cart, fleeing to my car where I can fall apart in privacy. That night, I text my father. Just a simple message. I miss you. I miss Mom. I'm so sorry. He doesn't respond. 1 year passes, then 2. The pain doesn't get better, it just changes shape. Instead of a sharp, acute agony, it becomes a dull ache that sits in my chest constantly, coloring everything I do. I get a promotion at work, and I can't celebrate because I have no one to share it with. Hannah tries her best, but she has her own life, her own family. I'm alone in a way I've never been before. I try therapy. The counselor is a kind woman named Dr. Susan Martinez, who specializes in grief and family estrangement. She helps me understand that what happened wasn't entirely my fault, that I was entitled to set boundaries, that my mother's heart attack was a medical event that I couldn't have prevented. But understanding it intellectually doesn't make it hurt less emotionally. On the 2nd anniversary of my mother's death, I drive to the cemetery. I haven't been there since she was buried because I wasn't at the funeral and didn't know exactly where her grave was. It takes me 20 minutes of wandering through the rows of headstones before I find it. Margaret Rose Harrison, beloved wife and mother. The epitaph is simple, engraved in gray stone that's already weathering from 2 years of rain and sun. Someone has left fresh flowers, probably my father. I kneel in the grass and trace my fingers over her name. I'm sorry, Mom, I whisper. I'm so sorry. I was angry, and I said things I didn't mean. I never got to tell you that I loved you, that I appreciated everything you did for me, that I understand now why you were the way you were. You just wanted to take care of me. The stone doesn't answer, of course. The dead don't speak. But I talk anyway, telling her about my life, about my job, about how much I miss Sunday dinners and her pot roast. I tell her about the dreams I have sometimes where she's still alive and everything is okay, and how waking up is like losing her all over again. I'm still kneeling there an hour later when I hear footsteps behind me. I turn to find Nathan, standing a few feet away, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. What are you doing here? His voice isn't as hostile as Caroline's was in the grocery store, but it's not friendly either. Visiting Mom? I stand up, brushing grass from my knees. I come by sometimes. He nods slowly. Dad comes every Sunday. Caroline visits on Wednesdays. I guess you picked Thursday so you wouldn't run into us. I didn't want to cause any more problems. Nathan is quiet for a long moment, just looking at the headstone. He's thinner than he used to be, his face more drawn. Grief has aged him. It's aged all of us. I think about that day sometimes, he says finally, in the hospital, the things I said to you. My heart skips. Is this it? Is this the moment where he apologizes, where we start to heal? I meant every word, he continues, and my hope crumbles. You killed our mother, Emily. Maybe not directly, but your actions led to her death. That's something you're going to have to live with for the rest of your life. He walks away before I can respond, leaving me alone with the headstone and my crushing guilt. The third year is somehow worse than the first two. The initial shock has worn off, and I'm left with the permanent reality that this is my life now. Estranged from my family, living alone in a small apartment, spending holidays by myself while trying not to think about what everyone else is doing. Hannah invites me to her family's Thanksgiving, and I go because the alternative is staying home alone with a frozen dinner. Her parents are kind and don't ask invasive questions, but I can see the pity in their eyes. Poor Emily, who has no family of her own. Christmas is the same. I buy presents for my father, Nathan, and Caroline, then leave them in the back of my closet because I have nowhere to send them and no way to deliver them. On Christmas morning, I drink coffee in my apartment and watch snow fall outside my window, and I cry for the family I used to have. It's a Tuesday morning in January, 3 years and 2 months after my mother's death, when my phone rings with an unknown number. I almost don't answer, assuming it's a telemarketer, but something makes me pick up. Is this Emily Harrison? A male voice, official sounding. Yes, this is she. This is Detective James Warren with the Westbrook Police Department. I need you to come down to the station as soon as possible. It's regarding your mother, Margaret Harrison. My blood turns to ice. My mother? She passed away 3 years ago. I know, ma'am. That's what I need to speak with you about. How soon can you get here? I don't understand. What is this about? There's a pause, and I can hear papers shuffling on the other end. Your mother didn't die of a heart attack, Miss Harrison. She was poisoned. We have all the evidence, and we know who did it. I need you to come to the station immediately. The phone slips from my hand and clatters onto my kitchen counter. Poisoned. My mother was poisoned. This whole time, 3 years of guilt and grief and self-blame. And it wasn't a heart attack at all. Someone murdered her. I grabbed the phone again with shaking hands. Who? Who poisoned her? I can't discuss that over the phone, Miss Harrison. You need to come to the station. Can you be here within the hour? Yes, I'll be right there. I drive to the Westbrook Police Station in a daze, my mind racing through possibilities. Poisoned. Murder. Someone deliberately killed my mother. Who would do such a thing? And why? My mother was kind, gentle, beloved by everyone who knew her. She didn't have enemies. She volunteered at the local food bank, taught Sunday school, baked cookies for the neighbors. The police station is a squat brick building that always made me nervous, even though I'd never been in trouble. Detective Warren meets me at the front desk, a tall man in his 50s with graying hair and tired eyes that have seen too much of humanity's worst. Miss Harrison, thank you for coming so quickly. Please, follow me. He leads me through a maze of corridors to a small conference room with a table and chairs. Another woman is already there, younger, with dark hair pulled into a ponytail. This is Detective Lisa Chen, Warren says as we sit down. She's been working this case with me. Case? I repeat. I still don't understand what's happening. You said my mother was poisoned? Detective Chen opens a manila folder and spreads several documents across the table. 3 years ago, your mother died of what was assumed to be a sudden cardiac event. Because of her age and apparent good health, a standard autopsy was performed. However, the samples were stored, as is protocol. She points to one of the documents, a medical report dense with terminology I don't understand. 6 months ago, we received information that prompted us to retest those samples using more advanced toxicology screening. What we found was a lethal dose of digoxin, a cardiac medication that can cause heart failure when administered in high doses. Digoxin, I whisper, but my mother didn't take any heart medication. Exactly, Detective Warren says, which is why her death was ruled as natural causes, initially. Digoxin poisoning can mimic the symptoms of a heart attack, especially in someone who wasn't being monitored for the drug. But our new tests confirmed that she had levels in her system that couldn't have occurred naturally. My mind is reeling. Someone gave her digoxin. Deliberately? That's what our investigation has concluded, yes. But who? Who would want to hurt my mother? Detective Chen exchanges a look with Detective Warren. He clears his throat. Miss Harrison, we need to ask you some questions first. Where were you on the morning your mother died? I was at home, in my house. Well, it was my father's house, but I was living there at the time. I got a call from my dad saying something was wrong, and I drove over there immediately. And the day before, January 8th? The day of the argument. I was at work until 5:30. Then I came home and found my mother in my living room. We had an argument. The words taste bitter. She left around 6 o'clock. What was the argument about? I explain about finding my mother going through my mail, about losing my temper, about the things I said that I've regretted every day since. Detective Chen takes notes while I talk. Did you see your mother after she left that evening? No. That was the last time I saw her alive. Did you give her anything? Food, drinks, medication? No, nothing. She didn't stay long after the argument started. I look between them, feeling defensive. Why are you asking me these questions? Do you think I poisoned my own mother? We have to rule everyone out, Detective Warren says diplomatically. Standard procedure. Well, I didn't do it. I loved my mother. Yes, we argued, but I would never hurt her. I've spent 3 years torturing myself over that argument, thinking it caused her heart attack. And now you're telling me she was murdered? My voice rises. Who did this? You said you knew who poisoned her. Detective Chen pulls out another document. This one, a photograph. Do you recognize this man? I look at the picture, and my blood runs cold. It's my father, Robert Harrison, smiling at the camera. But it's not a recent photo. He looks younger, maybe from 10 or 15 years ago. That's my dad, I say slowly. Why do you have his picture? The detectives exchange another significant look. Detective Warren speaks carefully. Miss Harrison, I'm very sorry to tell you this, but our investigation has determined that your father poisoned your mother. The room spins. I grip the edge of the table to steady myself. What? No, that's impossible. My father loved my mother. They were married for 33 years. He was devastated when she died. You saw him at the hospital. He was destroyed. Why would you even think we have evidence? Detective Chen interrupts gently. Multiple pieces of evidence that point conclusively to your father. She spreads more documents on the table. Bank statements, pharmacy records, emails. I try to focus on them, but the words blur together. Your father has been having an affair for the past 7 years, Detective Warren explains, with a woman named Patricia Summers. She's 42 years old, a former colleague of his from the investment firm where he works. An affair. My father. The man who cried at the hospital, who blamed me for my mother's death, who took back my house. He was having an affair? We became aware of the relationship when Miss Summers came forward 6 months ago. Detective Chen continues. She and your father had a falling out, and in anger, she revealed information about your mother's death. According to Miss Summers, your father had been planning to leave your mother for years, but was worried about the financial implications of divorce. Your mother would have been entitled to half of everything in the settlement. So he killed her instead? I can barely get the words out. He murdered her for money? And freedom, Detective Warren says. According to Miss Summers, your father felt trapped in the marriage. He wanted to start fresh with her, but he didn't want to lose his assets or his reputation in a messy divorce. Detective Chen taps one of the documents. These are pharmacy records showing that your father filled a prescription for digoxin 3 weeks before your mother's death. The prescription was supposedly for his mother, your grandmother Patricia Harrison, who lives in Florida and has a documented heart condition. However, when we contacted her doctor, we discovered that she gets her prescriptions filled at a local pharmacy there. She never requested your father to pick up medication for her. The digoxin your father obtained, Detective Warren continues, matches the type found in your mother's system. We also have electronic evidence showing he researched digoxin poisoning on his home computer, carefully deleting his browser history, but not realizing that the information could still be recovered by forensic technicians. I feel like I'm drowning. The argument I had with my mother the day before she died, did he know about that? The detectives nod. According to Miss Summers, your father called her the evening of January 8th. Very excited. He said that you and your mother had a serious argument and that he saw an opportunity. If your mother died right after an argument with you, everyone would assume the stress triggered a heart attack, and that's exactly what happened. He set me up. The realization crashes over me like a wave. He used my argument with Mom to cover up murder. He let my whole family blame me. He took back my house, kicked me out, turned Nathan and Caroline against me. He destroyed my life to hide the fact that he murdered his own wife. I'm very sorry, Detective Chen says, and she sounds like she means it. I know this must be incredibly difficult to process. Where is he? I ask. Where's my father now? He's been arrested, Detective Warren says. We took him into custody this morning. He's being charged with first-degree murder. Miss Summers is cooperating with the prosecution in exchange for immunity, since she was an accessory after the fact. She knew what he'd done and didn't report it. I sit back in my chair, trying to absorb everything I've just learned. My father is a murderer. My mother's death wasn't my fault. 3 years of guilt, 3 years of estrangement, 3 years of grief that I didn't need to carry, all because my father was a selfish, cruel man who wanted his mistress more than his wife. Does Nathan know? I ask. Or Caroline? We're contacting them this afternoon, Detective Warren says. We wanted to speak with you first because you were the one who was blamed for your mother's death. We felt you deserved to hear the truth as soon as possible. Can I see him? My father? The detectives look uncomfortable. He's asked for his lawyer. We can't allow a confrontation. I'm sorry. I nod, not trusting myself to speak. Part of me wants to scream at my father, to make him look me in the eye and admit what he did. But a larger part of me just feels numb, empty, like someone has scooped out my insides and left nothing but a hollow shell. Detective Chen pushes a business card across the table. This is the number for the Victim Services Coordinator. They can help connect you with resources, counseling, support groups. I know you're going to need time to process all of this. I take the card without looking at it. What happens now? There will be a trial, Detective Warren explains. You'll likely be called as a witness, since you were present at the hospital and can testify about your father's behavior after your mother's death. The prosecution is building a strong case. With Miss Summers' testimony and all the forensic evidence, they're confident they can get a conviction. He blamed me, I whisper. He looked me in the eye and blamed me for killing her, and the whole time, he was the one who did it. I know, Detective Chen says softly. I'm so sorry. I leave the police station in a fog. The January sun is bright and cold, glinting off ice patches in the parking lot. I sit in my car for a long time, just staring at nothing, trying to make my brain accept what I've just learned. My phone rings. It's Nathan. Emily. His voice is rough, strained. The police just left. They told me about Dad, about what he did. Yeah, I say, because I don't know what else to say. I'm sorry. The words come out in a rush. God, Emily, I'm so sorry. We blamed you. I blamed you. I said terrible things to you. I've spent 3 years hating you for something you didn't do, something Dad did. I can hear him crying on the other end of the line. My brother, who never cries, is sobbing like a child. I didn't know, I managed to say. I thought it was my fault, too. Can I see you? Can we talk? Please, I need to see you. Okay. Yeah. Where? Coffee shop on Maple Street? The one we used to go to when we were kids? I'll be there in 20 minutes. The coffee shop looks exactly the same as it did when Nathan and I were teenagers coming here after school. Same worn booths, same faded posters on the walls, same smell of coffee and baked goods. Nathan is already there when I arrive, sitting in a corner booth, looking like he hasn't slept in days. When he sees me, he stands up so fast he almost knocks over his coffee. Then he's pulling me into a hug, squeezing me so tight I can barely breathe. And we're both crying in the middle of this coffee shop while other patrons politely pretend not to notice. "I'm so sorry," he keeps saying. "I'm so sorry." We sit down finally, and Nathan wipes his eyes with the back of his hand. The detective told me everything. About Dad's affair, about the poison, about how he used your argument as a cover. Emily, I can't believe I fell for it. I can't believe I blamed you. He was convincing, I say. He was grieving too. Or at least, he was good at pretending to grieve. We all believed him. That bastard took your house back. He destroyed your relationship with all of us. He let you carry guilt for Mom's death when he knew the whole time that he was the one who killed her. Nathan's hands are shaking around his coffee cup. How could he do that? How could anyone do that to their own daughter? I don't know. We sit in silence for a moment. Then Nathan says, "Caroline doesn't know yet. The police are trying to reach her, but she's out of town for work. When she finds out..." Emily, she's going to be devastated. We both believed Dad completely. We said awful things to you. I said awful things to Mom, I reply. That part was real. I did have that argument with her. I did tell her to leave my house. But that didn't kill her. Dad killed her. With poison. Deliberately and premeditatedly. That's not on you, Emily. None of this is on you. I want to believe him. I want to let go of the guilt I've been carrying for 3 years. But it's not that simple. The argument still happened. I still hurt my mother's feelings. Even if it didn't cause her death, it was still the last interaction we had. What are we going to do? I ask. Nathan runs his hands through his hair, a gesture I recognize from our childhood when he was stressed. I don't know. The police said Dad's been arrested. There's going to be a trial. It's going to be all over the news. Everyone's going to know that our father murdered our mother. Let them know, I say, and I'm surprised by the hardness in my own voice. Let everyone know what kind of man he really is. He deserves to have his reputation destroyed the way he destroyed mine. You're right, Nathan says. You're absolutely right. My phone rings again. This time it's Caroline. Nathan and I exchange glances, and I answer. Emily? Caroline's voice is high and panicked. Is it true? Please, tell me it's not true. It's true, Caroline. Dad killed Mom. I hear her make a sound like someone's punched her in the stomach. Oh, God. Oh, my God. Emily, I'm so sorry. The things I said to you at the grocery store and before that at the hospital, I called you a murderer. I told you that you didn't deserve Mom's love. I'm so sorry. It's okay, I say. But it's not really. It's not okay. It's not even close to okay. I need to see you. I'm catching the next flight home. Can we meet, all 3 of us? Nathan nods at me. We're at the coffee shop on Maple Street. Come here when you land. I will. I'll be there as soon as I can. She pauses. Emily, I love you. I should have said that 3 years ago. I should never have stopped saying it. I love you too, Caroline. After I hang up, Nathan and I sit in the coffee shop for hours, talking through everything that's happened. We piece together the timeline, trying to understand how our father managed to fool us all so completely. The affair that none of us knew about. The years of planning. The cold calculation it must have taken to poison his own wife and then frame his own daughter for it. Do you remember how he was at the hospital? Nathan asks. How devastated he seemed? I remember, I say. He cried. He looked broken. Was any of it real? Or was he just acting the whole time? I think about the hatred I saw in my father's eyes that day, the venom in his voice when he told me to get out. I think the hatred was real. I think he genuinely wanted me gone, wanted me blamed, because it made his plan work better. He wasn't grieving Mom. He was relieved she was dead. Nathan makes a sound of disgust. And Patricia Summers. This woman he was having an affair with. She knew he murdered Mom and didn't say anything for 3 years. How does someone live with that? According to the detective, she was in love with him. She thought they were going to be together. But then Dad started pulling away, probably because he got what he wanted and didn't need her anymore. That's when she got angry and went to the police. So, she didn't turn him in because it was the right thing to do. She turned him in for revenge. Does it matter why she did it? At least she finally told the truth. Caroline arrives 6 hours later, still in her work clothes, looking like she's been crying the entire flight. She sees me and Nathan in the booth and runs over, sliding in next to me and throwing her arms around me. "I'm so sorry," she sobs into my shoulder. "I'm so sorry." The three of us spend the evening together, the way we used to before Mom died. We order food that we barely touch. We drink coffee until we're jittery with caffeine. We cry and talk and try to make sense of the incomprehensible. "What do we do about the house?" Caroline asks at one point. "Dad made Emily give it back. Legally, does it belong to her again?" "I don't know," I say. "I don't even know if I want it back. It's tainted now. Everything is tainted." Nathan reaches across the table and takes my hand. "Whatever you want to do, we'll support you. If you want the house back, we'll help you fight for it. If you want to never think about it again, we understand that too." "I just want my life back," I whisper. "I want the last 3 years back. I want Mom back." "I know," Caroline says. "We all do." The news breaks the next day. My father's arrest is front-page news in the local paper and the lead story on every television station. Local investment manager arrested for wife's murder. The headlines scream. Reporters start calling, wanting interviews, wanting to know how it feels to be falsely blamed for 3 years. I don't answer any of them. Nathan, Caroline, and I huddle together in Caroline's house, watching the news coverage with a mixture of horror and vindication. There's my father in an orange jumpsuit, being led into court for his arraignment. There's Patricia Summers hiding her face from cameras as she goes into the police station. There's my mother's photograph, smiling and beautiful, with the caption, "Murdered by her own husband." The story explodes beyond our local area. National news picks it up. Man poisons wife, frames daughter for her death. True crime podcasts start covering it. My inbox fills with messages from strangers, some supportive, others cruel, many just morbidly curious. Dr. Martinez, my therapist, squeezes me in for an emergency session. "How are you holding up?" she asks. "I don't know," I tell her honestly. Part of me feels relieved, vindicated. I didn't kill my mother, but part of me still feels guilty because that argument was real. And part of me just feels empty, like these past 3 years were stolen from me and I can never get them back. "All of those feelings are valid," she says. "This is going to take time to process. You've experienced multiple traumas, your mother's death, being blamed for it, losing your family, and now learning the truth. That's an enormous amount for anyone to handle." "Nathan and Caroline want to reconcile," I say. "They've been calling constantly, apologizing, wanting to make things right, but I don't know if I can just forgive them. They said terrible things to me. They believed the worst about me so easily." "They were also manipulated by your father," Dr. Martinez points out. "He's a very skilled liar who knew exactly which buttons to push. Your siblings were grieving their mother and looking for someone to blame. Your father gave them a convenient target." Does that excuse what they did to me? No, but it might explain it. Forgiveness is a personal choice, Emily. You don't owe it to anyone, but you might find that you want to forgive them for your own peace of mind, not because they deserve it. I think about her words as I drive home. Forgiveness. The concept feels foreign after 3 years of isolation, but Nathan and Caroline are the only family I have left now. Do I want to spend the rest of my life alone, or do I want to try to rebuild what was broken? The trial is set for 6 months away, In the meantime, I have to decide what to do with my life. The apartment lease is month to month, and I could move anywhere, start fresh somewhere new where no one knows my story. But something keeps me here in Westbrook. Maybe it's the connection to my mother. Maybe it's the desire to see my father face justice. Maybe it's the fragile reconciliation with my siblings that I'm not ready to give up on. Nathan helps me hire a lawyer to look into getting the house back. It turns out that since the transfer was done under duress and based on false accusations, I have a good case for having it reversed. But the process will take months, and I'm not sure I have the energy for another fight. "Do you even want the house?" Hannah asked me over dinner one night. She's been my constant support through all of this, never judging, always there when I need her. "I don't know," I admit. "It was supposed to be a gift from my parents, a sign that they were proud of me, that they wanted to help me build my life, but it was never really mine. Dad took it back the first chance he got. Even if I get it back legally, it won't feel the same. What would feel right to you?" I think about it, starting over, completely fresh, maybe even a new city. "You could do that," Hannah says. "You could walk away from all of this and never look back. But that would mean leaving Nathan and Caroline again. We're just starting to reconnect. And it would mean missing the trial. I need to be there, Hannah. I need to look my father in the eye and let him know that he didn't break me." She nods, understanding. "Then you stay. You rebuild. You take back your life on your own terms." Caroline and I start having weekly dinners. At first, they're awkward, filled with long silences and careful conversation. But gradually, we start to relax around each other. We talk about Mom, sharing memories that make us laugh and cry. We talk about the trial and what it's going to be like. We talk about the years we missed, trying to fill in the gaps. "I got engaged," Caroline tells me one evening. "His name is Thomas. He's a high school teacher. You'd like him." "When did this happen?" 8 months ago. I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how. After everything that happened, I thought you wouldn't want to hear from me." "I would have wanted to know," I say. "I miss so much of your life, Caroline. I don't want to miss any more." Nathan has news, too. He and his wife, Jennifer, are expecting their first child, a daughter. They're going to name her Margaret, after our mother. "I want you to be at the birth," Nathan tells me. "I want my daughter to know her Aunt Emily. I want to tell her stories about her grandmother. The real story, not the one Dad created." These moments of reconnection are bittersweet. I'm grateful to have my siblings back, but I'm angry about the time we lost. 3 years, where I should have been there for Caroline's engagement, for Nathan's pregnancy announcement, 3 years stolen by our father's lies. The preliminary hearings begin 4 months after my father's arrest. I attend each one, sitting in the courtroom gallery with Nathan and Caroline on either side of me. My father refuses to look at us. He sits at the defense table in an expensive suit, whispering with his lawyers, acting like the victim in all of this. Patricia Summers testifies during one of the preliminary hearings. She's a small woman with nervous hands, and she can't look at any of us as she speaks. She describes the affair, the planning, my father's complaints about feeling trapped in his marriage. She admits that she knew about the poisoning and said nothing because she loved him and believed they would be together. "Did Mr. Harrison tell you about his plan to frame his daughter for the murder?" the prosecutor asks. Patricia nods miserably. "He said that Emily had an argument with Margaret the day before. He said it was perfect timing, that everyone would blame Emily and never suspect him. He was excited about it." I feel sick hearing her words. My father was excited about framing me. He saw my moment of frustration with my mother as an opportunity to be exploited. The defense attorney tries to discredit Patricia's testimony, suggesting she's lying out of revenge for the affair ending. But the forensic evidence backs up her story. The pharmacy records, the computer searches, the toxicology reports. It all paints a clear picture of premeditated murder. During one recess, I find myself face to face with my father in the courthouse hallway. He's surrounded by his lawyers, but for a moment, our eyes meet. I wait for him to look away, to show some shame or remorse. Instead, he glares at me with pure hatred. "This is your fault," he says quietly, so only I can hear. "If you had just stayed away, I would have gotten away with it." His lawyer pulls him away before I can respond, but his words echo in my mind for days afterward. He's not sorry. He doesn't feel guilty. In his mind, I'm somehow to blame for his own arrest. The cognitive dissonance is staggering. He's a narcissist. Dr. Martinez explains in our next session, people like your father don't accept responsibility for their actions. In his mind, he's the victim of circumstance. He probably genuinely believes that he had no choice but to kill your mother, that you forced his hand by having that argument, that Patricia betrayed him by going to the police. Nothing is ever his fault. How did we not see it? I ask. How did we live with him for 31 years and never know what he was capable of? Because he's been wearing a mask his entire life. The devoted husband, the proud father, the successful businessman. That mask was so convincing that even the people closest to him believed it. But underneath, there was always this other person, this selfish, cruel person who was willing to murder his wife rather than share his assets in a divorce. The trial finally begins on a sweltering day in July. The courthouse is packed with media, spectators, and courthouse regulars who attend trials for entertainment. Nathan, Caroline, and Shire and I sit in the front row, directly behind the prosecution table. We've been warned that the testimony will be difficult to hear, but nothing prepares us for the reality of it. The medical examiner testifies about the effects of digoxin poisoning, describing in clinical detail how my mother's heart would have stopped, how she would have felt before she died. The forensic specialist explains the recovered computer files showing my father's research into untraceable poisons. Patricia Summers takes the stand again, this time for days of grueling testimony about the affair and my father's planning. The defense's strategy is to claim that Patricia is lying, that she's the one who poisoned my mother out of jealousy, and that my father is innocent. But it's a weak defense, and everyone in the courtroom can see it. The evidence against him is overwhelming. On the fourth day of trial, I'm called to testify. I walk to the witness stand with my hands shaking, very aware of my father sitting just a few feet away. I place my hand on the Bible and swear to tell the truth. The prosecutor is gentle with me, asking about my relationship with my mother, about the argument we had, about that terrible day at the hospital. I describe my father's reaction, the hatred in his eyes, the way he blamed me for her death. "Did you poison your mother, Miss Harrison?" the prosecutor asks. "No, I loved my mother. I would never have hurt her." "Did you know that your father was having an affair?" "No, I had no idea until the police told me." "Did you know that he was planning to kill your mother?" "No, I thought she died of natural causes. A heart attack. That's what we were all told." The defense attorney's cross-examination is brutal. He tries to make me seem like a troubled daughter who had a contentious relationship with her mother. He asks about the argument repeatedly, trying to make it seem worse than it was. He suggests that I'm testifying against my father out of spite, that I want revenge for him taking back the house. "Isn't it true that you resented your mother's involvement in your life?" he asks. "I sometimes found her overprotective, but I loved her." "Isn't it true that you told your mother you didn't need her anymore?" The words are like a knife. I said that in anger during an argument. I didn't mean it. "But you did say it. You told your mother on the day before she died that you didn't need her." "Yes," I whisper, and I've regretted those words every day since. By the time I step down from the witness stand, I'm exhausted and emotionally drained. Nathan and Caroline both hug me in the hallway during the recess. "You did great," Nathan says. "You told the truth." But I don't feel great. I feel raw and exposed. My worst moment, the argument I've been ashamed of for 3 years, has been dissected in open court for everyone to judge. The trial lasts 3 weeks. Nathan testifies about our father's behavior at the hospital. Caroline testifies about how our father encouraged us to blame me. Character witnesses describe my mother as a kind, loving woman who would never have done anything to deserve being murdered. Financial experts explain how my father stood to lose millions in a divorce settlement. When my father takes the stand in his own defense, I watch carefully to see if the mask will slip. But he's good. He's very good. He plays the role of the grieving widower perfectly, denying the affair at first, then admitting it, but claiming it was meaningless. He insists he never wanted to hurt his wife, that he was going to end the affair and work on his marriage. He cries on the stand, actual tears running down his face as he talks about how much he loved my mother. "I know how it looks," he says to the jury. "I know the evidence seems damning, but I didn't kill my wife. I couldn't have. I loved her too much." For a moment, watching him, I almost believe him. That's how convincing he is. Then I remember the hatred in his eyes at the hospital, the way he took my house, the 3 years of isolation he let me suffer. The mask may be good, but I know what's underneath it now. The closing arguments are passionate on both sides. The defense paints Patricia as a vengeful mistress who framed an innocent man. The prosecution methodically walks through every piece of evidence, building an undeniable case for premeditated murder. "Robert Harrison had motive," the prosecutor says. "Millions of dollars in assets he didn't want to share. A mistress he wanted to be with without the complications of divorce. He had means. Access to a deadly poison through his mother's prescription. He had opportunity. He was alone with his wife on the morning she died. And most damningly, he had a scapegoat. His own daughter, who had argued with her mother the day before. He saw a chance to get away with murder, and he took it. But, thanks to the courage of one woman, Patricia Summers, who came forward with the truth, and the diligent work of law enforcement, we now know what really happened. Justice for Margaret Harrison has been delayed, but it will not be denied. The jury deliberates for 2 days. Nathan, Caroline, and I wait in a nearby hotel, barely eating, barely sleeping. When the call finally comes that they've reached a verdict, we rush back to the courthouse. The courtroom is silent as the jury foreman stands. We, the jury, find the defendant, Robert Harrison, guilty of murder in the first degree. The word guilty echoes through the courtroom. I hear Caroline start to cry beside me. Nathan lets out a long breath. I just sit there, numb, trying to absorb the reality that my father has been convicted of murdering my mother. My father shows no emotion as the verdict is read. He simply stares straight ahead, his face blank. When the judge polls the jury, confirming that the verdict is unanimous, he still doesn't react. It's only when the bailiff comes to lead him away that he turns and looks at us one last time. There's no remorse in his eyes, no apology, just that same cold calculation, that same narcissistic belief that he's the victim in all of this. Sentencing is scheduled for 3 weeks later. The prosecutor is asking for life without parole. With my father's age and the severity of the crime, it's likely he'll die in prison. The 3 weeks between verdict and sentencing are strange. There's a sense of relief that my father has been found guilty, that the truth has finally come out. But there's also a profound sadness. My mother is still gone. Those 3 years of estrangement still happen. Justice has been served, but it doesn't bring her back. Nathan and I go to the house I used to live in, the one my father gave me and then took back. It's been sitting empty since his arrest, slowly deteriorating without anyone to care for it. We walk through the rooms, and I'm struck by how different it feels now. This was supposed to be a home full of happy memories, but all I can see is the manipulation behind the gift. "Do you want it back?" Nathan asks. "The lawyers said you have a strong case." I look around the dusty living room, remembering how happy I was the day my father gave me the keys. "No," I say finally, "let's sell it and split the proceeds between the three of us. None of us should have to live with his gifts anymore." On the day of sentencing, the courtroom is packed again. The judge asks if anyone wants to make a statement before sentencing is pronounced. The prosecutor nods at me, and I stand up. I walk to the front of the courtroom and face my father directly. This is my chance to tell him how I feel, to let him know the damage he's caused. For 3 years, I begin, my voice shaking but determined, I believed I killed my mother. I believed that my anger and my harsh words caused her heart to fail. I carried that guilt every single day. I lost my family, my home, and my sense of self because of that guilt. You watched me suffer, and you did nothing. Worse than nothing, you encouraged it. You took my house. You turned Nathan and Caroline against me. You let me live in isolation and self-blame because it served your purposes. My father still won't look at me, but I continue anyway. I want you to know that you didn't break me. You tried, but you failed. I've reconnected with Nathan and Caroline. We're rebuilding our family without you. And I've learned something important through all of this. I learned that I'm stronger than I ever knew, that I can survive things I never thought possible. That family isn't just about blood. It's about the people who stand by you when things are hard. I take a deep breath. I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. I forgive you for killing my mother. I forgive you for framing me. I forgive you for the 3 years you stole from me, but I will never forget what you did. And I will make sure that my mother's memory is honored in ways you never could have. I sit back down between Nathan and Caroline, and they each take one of my hands. The judge looks at my father and says, "Robert Harrison, you have been found guilty of the murder of your wife, Margaret Rose Harrison. You showed no remorse throughout this trial. You allowed your daughter to suffer for a crime you committed. You betrayed your family in the worst possible way. I hereby sentence you to life in prison without the possibility of parole." My father is led away in handcuffs. As he passes our row, he glances at us briefly. For just a second, I think I see something crack in his expression. Regret? Sadness? But then it's gone, and he's disappeared through the door. After the sentencing, Nathan, Caroline, and I drive to the cemetery. We haven't been there together since the funeral 3 years ago. We stand around my mother's grave, the three of us united in grief for what we've lost. "She deserved better than this," Caroline says softly. "Better than Dad. Better than the way she died." "She deserved to grow old," Nathan adds, "to see her grandchildren, to retire and travel and enjoy her life." "She deserved the truth," I say. "She deserved to know that her daughter loved her, even when she was angry. She deserved to know that the man she trusted betrayed her in the worst way possible." We place fresh flowers on her grave, and I pull out the card I've written. It says simply, "I'm sorry, Mom, for the argument, for not protecting you, for not seeing the danger you were in, but I promise I'll make you proud. Nathan, Caroline, and I are going to honor your memory by being the family you always wanted us to be. We're going to support each other and love each other the way you taught us. Rest in peace, Mom. You're finally free." In the months that follow the trial, my life slowly begins to feel normal again. The media attention fades. People stop staring at me in the grocery store. I move to a new apartment, bigger and brighter than the studio I've been living in. Nathan and Caroline helped me decorate, and for the first time in 3 years, I feel like I have a home. We established new traditions, the three of us, Sunday dinners, just like we used to have with Mom and Dad, but now it's just us, and we take turns hosting. We talk about everything and nothing. We laugh. We cry. We slowly heal. Jennifer gives birth to little Margaret, Maggie, in October. I'm there at the hospital, holding my niece for the first time, marveling at how something so beautiful can come from something so tragic. Maggie has my mother's eyes, bright and intelligent. Nathan tears up when he sees it too. Mom would have loved her, he says. Mom would have loved all of this, I reply. Looking around at our family, small but strong. Caroline's wedding is in December. She asked me to be her maid of honor, and I cry when she does. I know we lost 3 years, she says, but I don't want to lose any more time. You're my sister, and I love you. Thomas, her fiancé, is exactly the kind of man our mother would have approved of. Kind, genuine, supportive. When he vows to love Caroline through good times and bad, in sickness and health, I think about how my father made those same vows to my mother and broke every single one of them. But I also think about how we get to choose who we become. We're not defined by our parents' mistakes. Nathan, Caroline, and I are building something new, something honest and real. On the first anniversary of my father's conviction, the three of us go to the cemetery again. We bring champagne and plastic cups, which feels a little scandalous, but also right. To Mom, Nathan says, raising his cup, who deserved so much better than what she got. To family, Caroline adds, the one we're creating together. To truth, I finish, and to healing. We toast and drink, and I feel my mother's presence there with us. Not in a supernatural way, but in the values she instilled in us, the love she showed us, the example she set of how to be a good person even when life is hard. I've started a support group for people who have been falsely accused of crimes. We meet twice a month, sharing our stories, helping each other navigate the complicated process of rebuilding lives after trauma. It's become my way of honoring my mother's memory, helping others the way I wish someone could have helped me. Hannah remains my closest friend, the one who stood by me when no one else would. You know what I admire about you? She tells me one day over coffee. You could have become bitter. You could have let what your father did turn you into someone angry and closed off, but instead, you chose forgiveness. You chose to rebuild. You chose to help others. That takes real strength. I think about her words often. Forgiveness hasn't been easy. Some days I still feel angry about the time I lost, the guilt I carried, the isolation I endured. But I've learned that forgiveness isn't about letting someone off the hook. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of resentment. My father is in prison where he'll stay for the rest of his life. I don't visit him. I don't write to him. I've made my peace with the fact that he'll never be the father I deserved, that he'll never acknowledge what he did or apologize for it. That's his burden to carry, not mine. Patricia Summers sent me a letter once after the trial. She apologized for her role in what happened, for not coming forward sooner. She said she hopes someday I can forgive her. I haven't written back. Maybe someday I will, but right now I need to focus on my own healing. The house, the one my father gave me and then took back, has been sold. We split the proceeds 3 ways, and I used my share to make a down payment on a small house of my own. This one is truly mine, bought with my own money, free from any strings or manipulation. When I got the keys, Nathan and Caroline were there to celebrate with me. New beginning, Caroline said, hugging me in the empty living room. New life, Nathan added. And that's what this is. A new life built from the ashes of the old one. A life where I'm not defined by my father's crimes or the false accusations I endured. A life where I choose who I want to be and how I want to live. I think about my mother every day. I think about the conversation we never got to have, where I would have apologized for the argument, and she would have forgiven me immediately because that's who she was. I think about all the things she'll never get to experience: Maggie's first steps, Caroline's wedding, my new house. But I also think about the values she passed on to us, the love that continues even after death. Sometimes, late at night, I allow myself to imagine what life would have been like if none of this had happened. If my mother had lived, if my father hadn't poisoned her, if our family had stayed intact. But then, I remember that the family I thought I had was built on lies. My father's mask, his pretense of being a good husband and father, was always fake. The tragedy is that my mother never knew the truth. She died believing her husband loved her, but maybe that's okay. Maybe it's better that she never knew about the affair, the planning, the betrayal. She died without that knowledge, without that pain. In some ways, that's a mercy. I've learned that healing isn't linear. There are still bad days. Days when the grief overwhelms me, when the anger resurfaces, when I question everything I thought I knew about my childhood and my family. But there are more good days now. Days when I can remember my mother with love instead of pain. Days when I can laugh with Nathan and Caroline without feeling guilty about it. Days when I feel genuinely happy about my life and my future. Dr. Martinez says I'm one of the strongest people she's ever worked with. I don't always feel strong, but I'm still here, still standing, still building a life worth living. And maybe that's what strength really is. Not the absence of pain, but the choice to keep going despite it. 3 years ago, I thought my life was over. I thought I'd killed my mother and destroyed my family. I was wrong about all of it. The truth was so much worse than I imagined, but it was also liberating. I'm not a murderer. I'm not a terrible daughter. I'm a survivor who was manipulated by someone she trusted and who found a way to reclaim her life. My mother died at age 55 from what we thought was a heart attack. My entire family blamed me for it, and my father forced me to give back the house he had given me. 3 years later, I got a call from the police telling me the truth. That call changed everything. It gave me back my innocence, my family, and ultimately, my future. The man who poisoned my mother is in prison now. Justice has been served. But more importantly, Nathan, Caroline, and I have rebuilt what he tried to destroy. We're family again. We're healing together. And we're making sure that our mother's memory lives on in the love we show each other and the kindness we try to bring into the world. That's her real legacy. Not the way she died, but the way she lived. And that's the story I choose to remember.